It,
100%.
it's
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, it's
Yeah.
great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your picking your brain a little bit about social media and being a growth marketing strategist. But before we hit that point, I want to know when we look at the calendar, there's PTSD. 4 years ago, everything shut down. How did you survive the pandemic and how did it subsequently change you?
Oh man, good question. Geez. Well, so I was doing this at the time, right? Running this agency and we were a little different then. We were an influencer marketing specialist agency at the time. And we were very, very new, and as a business owner, entrepreneurship was extremely new to us. We were making a ton of mistakes, even like before the pandemic. So when that hit, like half of our clients, which were just a handful at the time, immediately had to shut down their businesses, because they were, around like people in the event space and things like that. So we immediately lost like half our clients in that first few months, which was just crazy.
Yeah.
And but at the time we were like, luckily we didn't have to like let any employees go, which was nice. Because like we didn't want to give up on the business. And we are like, I had a lot of good mentors at the time, like remote mentors, like meaning like other successful agency owners, like that had podcasts and things that I went to and then I talked about like, getting through 9/11, for example, with their business and like their past challenges. And I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna buckle down, do what we do best, make sure the clients that we have are happy, and we'll get through this. Just that don't give up mentality. And it was brutal, but it worked.
Yeah. So let me get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would tell, so my son's 6, so he's not yet in third grade, but I try to tell it to him, and that's even tougher.
Yeah.
But kind of what dad does is I help businesses tell their story to potential customers through influencers and social media.
Okay. Which is so essential these days. So what did you want to be in the third grade?
Oh man, I think third grade, I went through a lot of iterations of what I wanted to be. I would say probably like an astronaut at the time.
Okay.
And I did follow through on that a bit. I ended up getting an electrical engineering degree. So then, I love physics even through college and things like that. And then it's a long story, but I made a huge transformation to go into marketing from being an engineer. So I have kind of a unique background there.
That is interesting. So let's go back to the beginnings here of kind of how those seeds got into you to go from engineering, because that's almost a very, very left brain thing. And
Mm,
marketing can kind of float in that right brain realm. How did all of those hemispheres kind of form and then become who you are today?
yeah, great question. Oh man, it's a long story. I'll give you like the 3-minute version.
Okay.
So uh basically, so I have my engineering degree. I'm working in corporate America for big engineering firms here in Connecticut, and it was good. I was comfortable, making a good income. Got the house, was married, no kids at the time, right? But something didn't feel right to me, right? And my wife was kind of in the same boat. She was working for big insurance here in Hartford, Connecticut at the time too. And the two of us were like, we need something different. Like something is not fulfilling with this, right? And we had like at the time I was into entrepreneurship podcasts. There was a massive one at the time, and he's still very much one of my favorite mentor is Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
At the time, he had what was called the MFCEO podcast, but and now it's called Real AF. But I started listening to Andy back in like must have been 2012, 2014, something like that.
Wow.
And I kind of got that entrepreneurship bug in my brain.
Yeah.
So, wife and I decided at the time that like one of us was going to start a business, and just because like a coin flip almost, she won the toss and she decided to become an influencer. So she actually quit her corporate job and she started becoming an influencer on Instagram. And she built up a following from scratch back in like 2016, all the way up to 25,000 followers in less than a year.
Wow.
Posting about like healthy baking recipes using coconut sugar and things like that instead of regular sugar just
Yeah.
blew up. So she starts getting all these brand deals from like Panera and other, $500 to make a post and things like that. And what she quickly realized is that there's a massive opportunity here. Brands, even big ones, don't know how to communicate with influencers well to really drive results for their businesses. And that's how Get Hyped was born. So she took one like apparel brand on as a client, I think, we were getting pennies that they're paying her like $200 a month or something to find influencers for that apparel brand. It was like men's bathing suit company, and post about the bathing suits to help get more sales for that business. And so shortly after that, I actually got laid off. I was working for private equity back in 2018. I got laid off and joined on with her, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Her and I have been building this business since then. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, and I think that's the beauty of life is that we go through all of these changes, and ultimately with your story, the silver lining is you knew there was a dream that needed to be fetched. You knew that what you're doing, because I worked at HNTB for a little while when I got out of school, and
Huh?
doing I was writing proposals for engineers. Railroad engineers are a very, very select group of people on the planet. And
I
then
know some. Yeah.
they have a very weird sense of humor. They're very quiet, but all of the gears are moving, even though they don't say anything. So,
Right.
and then I was working with people that were making stadiums and all of that, and they have a great, comfortable life. But when you get to that point where you're like, there's something more on this planet, then that's totally admirable. And it takes a lot of courage, I think, to get to that point where you scrap it, and you go for it.
Yeah, it was just an itch that we had to scratch, honestly. And like, I very much have the mentality going through life that like I don't want to have any regrets about
Yeah.
experiences, and like this was just eating away at me for years when I was in corporate America. Like, so there's a voice in the back of my mind saying that like, you can do this, you can do a business, right? And like the only way you'll know for sure is by trying it.
Yeah.
So like I'm still scratching the itch.
It's that Mark Twain quote. He doesn't regret what he did, he regrets what he didn't do,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the key to it.
I don't
So
want to be
who
on my deathbed with regrets, that's for sure.
that's absolutely, man. So who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration for you in your life?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Honestly, I got to go back to Andy. So like, Andy Frisella is just like my number one inspiration and mentor. And he, just because I got to give him credit because from literally day one, from literally wanting to scratch the itch, he's been there the whole way.
Yeah.
Like the guy's been putting out, entrepreneurial advice for free for over a decade. And like, I still listen to every episode of his podcast every time they come out, and I'm part of his mentorship programs and things that he has. And for me, it's like this guy's all over the place. He's got like multi businesses and programs and things, but it's the mindset, and like as a business owner myself now, like that's the toughest thing that I struggle with is like my personal mindset, and then like setting a really good culture for our team. I
Yeah.
think it's like I always equate it to golf, right? Like you can do it, but like mastering it takes like a lifetime,
Yeah.
And I think mastering culture within like any kind of business is just like an art that like interests me so much. And Andy talks about that a lot, which is what like kind of resonates with me and why I go to him as like my hero, because his businesses specifically are like the model for an amazing company culture.
And that's so huge. And when you talk about mental health so much now, especially after COVID, I mean, we spend most of our lives on the job. So if you can have a place that you look forward to, and some of my favorite podcasts, there's a lot of them that I've listened to where there was bosses that were just really good. They had huge companies, massive amounts of people, and they were just good to their people. And it seems easy to do, but how many companies out there don't do that? Don't make that a priority.
A lot, a lot.
Right.
All I gotta do, and like I'm on social media all day, every day in my industry, and with my company, and all you have to do is jump on Instagram or TikTok to see tons of content of people complaining about they don't like their job, they don't like their boss, they don't like their culture, or they
Yep.
were treated poorly, right? It's becoming a problem, right?
Yeah.
And you have people on all kinds of sides of the argument, right? You don't really know who's right, but I just saw a piece of content the other day of an influencer saying that a business did something terribly and kind of like, what it's called in my industry, de-influencing, right? An influencer spreading negative stuff about a topic or a business. And the business was like kind of clapping back against her, and they were going at it with different forms of content. And it turns out she was doing like an apology video, and like she made up a lot of the stuff.
Wow.
So as a business owner myself, I'm like, it's just a crazy time of
Hmm.
like trying to navigate that social media landscape. And Get Hyped is kind of here to help businesses. That's what we do, is help and guide our clients, like not only on influencer stuff, but just like consulting them on how to adapt to things that are changing so fast.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. We live in this Me Too world now where it's like you hope that all of these people that are making allegations, it's true, but it's that kind of thing. I mean, how many people are out there are kind of fabricating or bringing things up that aren't true and people are getting ripped apart, you know? And
It's bad. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like I'm very pro America, and it's like you should be absolutely considered innocent until proven guilty, right? But
yeah,
unfortunately, society doesn't always work that way.
no,
And a lot of these people can come out and say stuff publicly, and it really, really hurts businesses or people. And you see that over and over again, and it's sad.
yeah. So you've obviously gone after your dream. You've come to this fork in the road, so to speak. And you've gone to the dream. What is it that motivates you every day? What is it that gets you out of bed? What is it that gets you to help clients and also evolve as a human being?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I gotta like I'm the kind of person who my wife laughs at me. I have a little notepad in my shower that's like waterproof and and I write on it 'cause I was thinking things in the shower, right? And I don't want to like towel off and grab the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
So another one of my heroes, mentors is Ed Milet. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever heard of Ed, but
Hmm.
Ed gives a something he brings up in his speeches quite a bit when he talks about entrepreneurship and vision and things like that is like he's like, I want to be that person in my family that kind of like sets generational change for the family, right? That he's like, he calls it the one. And like, honestly, that's what kind of motivates me is that I'm trying to build something long term here. Like I'm trying to look at it as like not what am I doing today or not what am I doing with this business, but and not even what I'm doing with my lifetime, but I want to make sure that like I'm setting the right example for my son and my daughter and like even my friends and family around me so that we can kind of like make long lasting change for good. Because that's something that both Ed and Andy say all the time is like if you want the world to change, right? We're in this post-COVID, time, and we see all kinds of like negative things out there. Where social media is this big amplifier, right? If you don't like the world around you, it's up to you to change you first, right? Change
Yeah.
your inner circle, change what you can control, and I think that's a big motivator for me every day.
So you have to guide all of these clients that you have in the right direction, which is kind of like giving good advice. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Ooh, wow, that's a good one. Best advice I've ever gotten. Hmm. Honestly, I tend to be a worrier, right? Anxiety is a challenge for me, and I think it is for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And some of the best advice that I think about almost on a daily basis is, don't worry about the things that you can't change, right? And actually, I have a stack of like note cards written down that I have to flip through on a daily basis to remind myself of that kind of stuff, for my own mental health. And like your circle of that you can impact, that you can actually on a daily basis change. Don't worry about anything outside that circle. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten to keep me focused and keep me from like physically hurting myself from worrying about all these things out there in the world that are like right in front of your face every day now.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the choices you've made, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Wow. 18-year-old version of myself, I would say get started earlier
Yeah,
on it. Yeah, don't waste time. Like I did waste, I would say a good 10 years just in, my 20s into my early 30s, really just chasing one dopamine hit after the next. And I don't think that's unique to me at all. I think a lot of people in that age range do go through that, right?
yeah,
A lot of my friends and family I see doing the same thing, and a lot of them are still doing it,
yeah.
right? And looking back on 18-year-old Dan, I would say, hey, start that business earlier. There's plenty of time in your life to party and have a good time, right? Like I'm not saying don't party and have a good time in your 20s, absolutely do it, but to carry it on for a decade,
Yeah.
probably would have done that in hindsight.
Yeah. So of all of the things that you've done in your life so far, everything that you've evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
I'm honestly super proud of being a dad, right?
Yeah.
I got two kids, like my son's 6, my daughter's 1.5. I think, and I have brother and sister that are younger than me, and I always tell them like, like I tell everybody, when you get married, not a whole lot changes. When you have kids, your entire life changes. And it absolutely did for me. Changed my perspective on everything, changed my perspective on life, on like what motivated me. And I feel like you don't really mature, at least from the perspective being a father, until you have kids and kind of have that outlook on life as like you're planting a tree today so that someone in the future can have some shade.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely changed my mindset on life as a whole, being a dad.
What's the best thing about living in Hartford, Connecticut?
Best thing about living in Hartford? Well, here's my office right now. You get I'm like on the 14th floor. I got this nice affordable office because Hartford's not really that giant of a city. You can
Yeah.
get in and out in 2 minutes. It's not like New
Wow.
York where, oh yeah, it's super easy to get in and out. My commute is about 10 minutes. I'm in suburbia right out here in Glastonbury, Connecticut right now. I got a super easy commute. You can get in here, you can see monster trucks in the arena and things like that. It's like very much easy to get in and out and city, but has all the benefits of a big city too at the same time.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of Kansas City. Kansas City's kind of like that. It's the traffic's not bad. There's just a lot of amenities that are a lot like that. So it's pretty cool. So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Good question. Honestly, could probably be better. Like that's something that I struggle with is that, you know, um, I feel like I'm tough on myself. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not in the shape as I should be. I'm not working out as much as I should be. And then I have to remind myself about some of my wins and accomplishments to kind of get out of that mindset. I'm very much focused on internal mindset these days because there's a Gary Vaynerchuk quote that I really like, and I think about it probably at least once a week, where he said like your success in business is directly proportionate to how much stress you can handle as the business owner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I agree with that 1,000%. Like I find myself getting stressed out about the decisions that get made or things that happen in the business. And then it always comes down to I'm not eating right, I'm not sleeping right, skipping workouts or whatever, because when I'm on the ball with my health and my mindset follows too,
For sure.
so yeah.
So if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
Check out our website, gethypedmedia.com. So that I always got to spell that out. That's HYPED because there isn't a with one without the D. But yeah, gethypedmedia.com. You can check us all out. You can check out our team and things like that. But yeah, we're an influencer marketing agency at the core, but we also do all other kinds of social media marketing for our clients as well. And our goal is just to help move businesses bottom line, right? Help them drive more revenue through social media and influencers.
Yeah, absolutely. What an important job. Dan, thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Keep doing the good work, man.
Yeah, awesome questions, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Great to meet you.